My name is Seth Sutherland. I've worked on shows like Superman, The Flash, Batwoman, Legends of Tomorrow, and you're listening to Kneel Before Pod.
Kneel Before Blog presents Kneel Before Pod.
Hello and welcome to Kneel Before Pod, the podcast that is more fun than being in a barrel full of boiling acid. I'm your host, Bo, and no, don't worry, you are in the right place despite my obvious lack of a Scottish accent. We're talking about Batman Forever on its 30th anniversary. Joining me to discuss the big black bat, someone who confused me quite a bit with their Discord handle, it's Isaac. Hello.
Hello, how's it going?
I'm good, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Also joining us, have you heard of him? Of course you have. It's Craig. Hi, Craig.
I'm here to heckle because I'm not hosting.
Yes, I was wondering why you got me to host. Now it's all explained.
Yeah, it's just so I can be one of those disruptive podcast contributors in the background. I'm getting my revenge for all that editing.
Well, that's usually my gig. One of our listeners, Andy Williams, will tell you he's the host of Frame to Frame on the Film Stories Podcast Network. He'll tell you that I always bring a very Bo-style, unique brand of chaos to the recordings, but when I host, it's a very different story. So you've cornered me.
Yeah.
For those that maybe don't remember Batman Forever too well, I'll give a pretty brief rundown of what Batman Forever was, and then I'm going to get some thoughts from Isaac and Craig about what the film means to them so we can sort of build our credentials into this. For the start of Batman Forever, Batman is an established member of Gotham City, the masked vigilante bat who fights crime, attracting the affections of the likes of the beautiful Dr. Chase Meridian, played by Nicole Kidman. And why wouldn't she be enamored? He has lips that look suspiciously like Val Kilmer's. Well, I suppose they are. He plays Bruce in this frankly loopy adventure helmed by Joel Schumacher, fresh off directing other zany adventures like The Client, Falling Down, and Flatliners. Maybe scratch that zany part. Anyway, to add to the mania, Batman must square off against Harvey Dent, played by Tommy Lee Jones, fresh off zany films like The Fugitive, who, as his alias Two-Face, is determined to kill Batman, whatever the human collateral. He's joined later in the film by the Riddler, a disgruntled scientific genius Edward Nygma, played by Jim Carrey, fresh off more serious fare like Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber. Can the caped crusader best this dastardly duo? Can he romance the pretty doctor? Can he inexplicably adopt a 25-year-old man? Spoiler alert, he can. But what I'd love to know is, what does this film mean to our panel? And I guess we'll start with you, Isaac, because we haven't spoken much before. What are your credentials with Batman Forever? Do you have memories of first watching it? Is it a special movie to you?
I do really like, because this was my introduction to Batman as a whole. I didn't watch it in 1995, though I was around at that time, but I'd be very little. I watched this, I think it was before The Dark Knight came out, so around 2008-ish. They put all the old Batman films on TV. They tend to do it with James Bond films and stuff, so I just happened to be sort of flicking through, seeing stuff for The Dark Knight. I was like, oh, I'll try one of the old Batman films, so it happened to be this one. Obviously, Batman's in like the public consciousness. I'd heard of the Joker and the Riddler and the Penguin and stuff from the 60s show, but I didn't know much about it, so this was sort of my main intro, and I loved it. I thought it was really good, and I still think it's really good. It gets quite into the character of Bruce, which is really interesting, and I think it's got some interesting visuals. You take the recognisable Two-Face style, Riddler style, but just kind of amps it up a little bit more. Gotham looks insane, and everything about it is just bold and colourful and massive and over the top, and I was just immediately enamoured with it. I just thought it was super fun. It's one of my favourite comfort movies in terms of comic book genre.
You made me feel very old, I'm just going to say that, when you were saying that you were a little baby when it came out.
I was like 4, I think, so it's not bad.
Oh, okay, you're not as young as I thought.
I was a little bit old, but it zoomed by. I do remember the McDonald's Mr. Freeze thing in 98 as well, but other than having a Mr. Freeze toy, probably that I would have misnamed, it would not have been a canon Mr. Freeze that 7-year-old he was playing with. He was probably the hero. But no, this is my proper Batman intro. Then after this, I went to the comic shop and was like, I like this. What books do you have? And then got Long Halloween, and then from there, fell in the rabbit's hole, really.
Craig, you're more my vintage. I was 7 when this movie came out. I think you were about the same age, were you not? Maybe a year older. What's your relationship with it?
I had this movie on VHS. I didn't see it at the cinema, and I did watch it a lot on VHS because it's just one of those appealing films to whatever age I was at the time. That would require me doing some quick maths, and I'm not going to do it. So I was young and watching it, as you do with films you have on VHS when you're that age. You watch it once or twice a week just because you may have a limited-ish library of stuff and you want to see Batman stuff. So there you go. I liked it at the time, and I still like it now. It's difficult to call it a brave movie because it's not, because it was just making a Batman film and it was in line with what was going on in superhero movies at the time, of which there weren't that many. But they would never make anything like this now. They would never go into this era of Batman, even though that era is as valid as, say, the Dark Knight era, the grim and gritty, realistic, quote-unquote stuff. They just wouldn't go into this really zany, comic booky, the Batcave has a spinning platform that no one will ever see. But Bruce Wayne really likes elaborately decorated secret layers because I guess it makes him feel good about all the money he's spent on stuff. I just don't feel like they would make this anymore, but it's just as valid an adaptation of Batman as anything else, because DC especially is more elastic than, say, Marvel, where more or less the same continuity across the decades, whereas DC, it's just whoever's writing them, it reboots itself all the time. So you can just have anything, basically. So why they keep going back to this Nolan-esque Dark Knight thing, that's why I found The Batman a bit underwhelming, because I just felt like I'd seen it before, and recently. Whereas something like this, I'll be more interested in, but I also think it's quite a confused film, because it's half this moody soul-searching thing, while also being a toy commercial. It doesn't quite find the balance that it needs to, and then Batman and Robin years later has a more coherent identity because it is just wall-to-wall comic book toy commercial, and on that at least it commits, whereas this feels like it's two films, and the behind the scenes suggest that there was a darker, longer cut that existed at some point that may or may not have screened for some people recently. I'm not sure. It's all rumoured.
So you posit that the film is indeed two-faced. Is that what we're saying?
It definitely is, yeah. It's good though. I do enjoy it. I think that Val Kilmer is a very good Bruce Wayne. I think that Nicole Kidman's very good in it. I think the two villains are having an excellent time. Well, at least they seem to be having an excellent time.
Well, except for the behind-the-scenes knowledge there. To give my credentials, to start off with, Craig, your initial intention behind recruiting me to the podcast is because I have a differing view on this more nerdy fare that you usually cover than maybe the rest of the crew does, and you've struck gold here. I do feel less high about this film than you guys do. I'm not here to rain on anybody's parade, though. If this movie is special to people, that's great. I love that. But for me, this was never a special film. I did watch it when I was young, and I was really going through a Jim Carrey phase. Those three very serious Jim Carrey movies that I mentioned, Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber, particularly Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber. You talk about getting the VHS and watching it into the ground. I did that with those two movies, and we never owned them. So my parents would take me to the video store every week to rent out these damn movies, and I would just watch them into the ground. I loved Jim Carrey, and I never got into this movie, which is interesting because he's so important to the success of it, in my opinion.
That reminds me of a Brooklyn Nine-Nine joke. I was told I'd save a lot of money just by buying Die Hard instead of renting it every week.
I can't imagine what I spent on VHSs at that store for these two movies, particularly. So yeah, it's strange that this one never hit for me when I was young. I've never really been a superhero head for a kid. I was never really into the Batman movies. If I was going to pick a preference, I would say the grittier stuff, like The Batman or like Batman Begins. I really quite like those movies. So this one, yeah, a different style, which I don't like as much. So I guess we're all coming from a slightly different position here, which I think is really interesting. You'll notice the format for this podcast is a little bit different to what we usually do here at KBP. That's because I host a podcast called Movieversaries, and one of the things that we ask about a movie that's 30 years old. And by the way, we are spoiling at this point. We've given our non-spoiler thoughts, and now we are heading into a spoiler zone. Craig, you promised me there'd be a sound of some sort.
There will be, but it'll be in post.
He's posting it to you.
Yeah.
It might take a while.
Yeah, all the way to Australia. Once he posts it to me, I will put it in right here. Okay, we're in the spoiler zone of Batman Forever. This feels a bit weird because it's a 30-year-old movie to say that it's in the spoiler zone now, but here we are. We're in the spoiler zone.
Just in case, you never know. Someone might listen to the first 15 minutes and think, oh, I might watch this movie, and then we just start spoiling everything.
Yeah, it pissed off that snobby sounding guy. It must be good. Let's go check it out. Isaac, you mentioned that this is a comfort movie for you. How does it hold up 30 years later for you? It seems obviously quite well.
Well, that's the thing. I know you both watched it when you were young. I think I first watched this when I was like 16 or something. I was like, this is great. The fun parts are kind of the more time capsule bits. I do enjoy the modern Batmans and same with the current Golden Age superhero movies. But I think cackling villains that are just goofs, they're just both clowns for different reasons. And then you got the streetwise Robin who does extreme laundry and he hijacks the Batmobile and he's like, yeah, Batman, I'm in the car, whatever. It's like my costume's in the wash. And it's kind of Wild West style before anyone on the internet was concerned about this isn't canon or this is out of character, for like, this is not comic accurate. This feels like we're just going to have fun with these guys. You know, there are people who are annoyed because, you know, this Two-Face will flick the coin a few times to get the response he wants, or Batman will get drive-through or the certain costumes or whatever. But I think it's just the same with the way I'd watch Indiana Jones or an old James Bond or something, where it's a decent, I can't remember, like just under 2 hours or so, like just a bit of fun. I know the story, I've seen it a million times. It's an old style of, we're not overly concerned about the reception of it. As Craig said, it's a commercial for various bat suits and bat vehicles and Riddler suits, and it's a nice film you can just put on, like, let's watch this. It's decent and fun, and it doesn't take itself very seriously, and it's purely like the giant circus style thing that happens. It's just there for fun. It's not there to win any awards or whatever.
Despite the fact that it was nominated for 3 Oscars.
Was it nominated for 3 Oscars?
Yeah, it was nominated for 3 Oscars.
What else came out in 95?
Good point. The winning film, by the way, for Best Picture was Braveheart that year. So say what you will about that. I don't know how the Scots feel about that. But Best Cinematography was Steven Goldblatt. So he got nominated for that, didn't win. And they got nominated for Best Sound and Best Sound Effects Editing. So that's 3 different categories that this film got nominated for. I'm an Oscars nerd. So for reading that was just like, what?
One of them appear on the televised feed, the other 2 not so much.
Yeah. Let me go to you, Craig, because you mentioned this idea of the Two-Face film. Isaac's right. It certainly doesn't take itself too seriously, but I think it also does have quite a lot on its mind. So maybe in that sense, how do you think the film holds up 30 years later?
I think it's as confused as it was back then, and Isaac's point about comic accuracy, pretty much every Batman adaptation is comic accurate to some comic run, really, because, like I say, it's so elastic. I found myself drawn to the underdeveloped psychological stuff on this viewing. It really is there, but doesn't really go anywhere. And I was reading into what was in the original version. This theatrical cut mentions his dad's journal, but the original version goes into more detail, apparently, in terms of what's written in it. There's this whole subplot about Bruce blaming himself because he remembers an entry detailing that his parents wanted to stay in, but Bruce wanted to go to the cinema. And then there's a final entry in the journal where his dad wrote that he and Martha wanted to see Zorro. So it absolves Bruce of that guilt and lets him move on to not make Batman about vengeance anymore, which is in here, but you don't really get the showing your working of reaching that conclusion. So it's very confused there. It's torn between wanting to do that psychological analysis and Tommy Lee Jones mugging for the camera along with Jim Carrey. The 2 don't quite mesh together, and they will fully commit to the lunacy in Batman and Robin, the next film. And then that kills the franchise for a while. This is them trying to figure out what Batman is going to evolve into after the Tim Burton-ness. Because Batman Returns, people are like, well, that's too much. Scale it back. And this is scaling it back, but not completely.
It's interesting that they decided to do that, because I thought Tim Burton movies were quite zany as well. Jack Nicholson's Joker is so big. It's such a big performance. And then you have Danny DeVito's Penguin. This is in Batman Returns, who is also pretty out there. Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman is not exactly a small movie in terms of how zany it is. It is darker, though. And this film is less dark.
It's considered to be a bit too grotesque and off-putting and unsettling, though. That was where they let Tim Burton really run with it, whereas the first one, he's kind of restrained by some expectations of making a Batman movie, but when they let him have free reign, it was just, no, this is too much. People aren't quite vibing with this. We need to do something else. Was
the animated show out at this time, or was it a bit after 95?
It would have been.
Yeah, so they have the goth Batman, Tim Burton stuff, and then they have a bit of the Kevin Conroy Batman as well, I guess. So I suppose lots of kids at the time would have seen both styles of what the character can do.
Yeah. And the animated series straddles that line much better than this film does, I think. It's able to lean into the absurdity while also being a bit serious.
For those at home, yes, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, for example, which is considered broadly one of the better Batman films, is the animated one. It was made in 1993, so 2 years before this. So, yeah, you're right. The audience could probably keep their cake and eat it too, have both options.
Yeah, the Saturday morning cartoon would have been on. I think that was 92 maybe that started, something like that.
It ran from 92 to 95. So yeah, you're quite right. So everyone's getting their weekly fix of Dark Batman, and then they can head to the cinema and watch Val Kilmer as Batman and Bruce. And Isaac, this is a special film to you in the Batman oeuvre. So I guess, how do you feel about Val as Batman, Bruce? Is he your Batman?
I think he is. I was very impressed with the Batman. It's a bit early to decide if Patterson, it's good to get a few movies in to see, especially in the more long form. I know this is Val Kilmer's only one, but at time of recording, I think Val Kilmer's my favourite of the Batman. He's not particularly much of a character compared to, say, the Let's Get Nuts Batman of Michael Keaton, and a bit more of the George Clooney Batman after this. He's a bit more stoic and he speaks in a measured way. At the beginning, he'll be like, on the second anniversary of the robbing of the second bank of Gotham. He has that sort of tone of voice as Batman. It's that odd thing of Batman's this detective, but he's dressed in a giant bat suit, so he always looks out of place. But I think if you listen to this as an audio, and it'd be a conversation between, say, Chase or Batman and the Commissioner in this, you could sort of see him as a sort of film noir style detective in the trilby hat. I think he's a really fun Batman. I especially like that contrast as well with the Robin that they have in this, Chris O'Donnell Robin. It is funny watching it as he's a grown man, but he plays more to the angry young teen against a brick wall of a stoic person. He doesn't go like, yeah, partners. He'd be like, no, partners, or even like, I'll get drive-through. It's done in a more deadpan way, which I do like in that Batman. It's a serious job he's doing, he's taking on crime. It's not doing it lightly, even in the silly world that he's living in. Yeah, I think Val Kilmer is my Batman of choice.
Interesting. Craig, I'll throw the question open to you. Obviously, your thoughts on Val, but who is your Batman?
I don't know that I've had my cinematic Batman yet.
You're more of an Adam West guy?
I like Adam West's Batman. Again, perfect adaptation of the comics of the time.
For that time, yeah.
That's how they were written at that point. Yeah, Adam West is great. The guy commits. You can't take that away from him. I like Michael Keaton, but also I don't have that same bond that some people seem to with that version of him that Warner Brothers badly miscalculated for the Flash movie and bringing him back. Turns out nobody cares. Nobody wants to see him again, really. It's not as big a draw as you thought.
I think that might have other problems, though. There was a huge amount of controversy around Ezra, so I'm not entirely sure how much of that was Michael Keaton's fault.
It's not that it was his fault, but it was more that they miscalculated, thinking, oh, everyone will want to see that Batman again. And no, not really. No one cares, because your target audience weren't alive when he was Batman, so don't care. The people that like those movies will like things about them that they're not doing in the Flash movie.
And they might be like 50 or 60 years old, so they're not the target audience for the Flash movie anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Your target audience, or the people that will care about this, don't care about this, basically. Val Kilmer, I really like him in this role. I was reading about his approach to playing the character, and he says that he sees Batman as more of a blank slate that any actor can step into and just embody. So in terms of the performance, it's more of that, letting the audience project themselves into the character rather than be a distinct character. But even then, I think he has some really good scenes in here. I think his presence is very good. He also plays that very close to the animated series Bruce Wayne, where he's a really shrewd and smart businessman. He's very charming when he speaks to people, and he has it all figured out as Batman as well. He's very experienced, knows what he's doing there. But I also like the fact that he's very detached from the world that he protects. He just doesn't feel like a part of everything that he's doing. In a way, it seems like he's going through the motions. Certainly is Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne, in a lot of adaptations, is the disguise. Batman is who he really is. And there's not really a strong sense of personality for Batman as a persona, but there's a sense that Bruce Wayne is just I need to be seen as this guy once in a while.
I thought the interesting thing about this movie for me was actually the Bruce Wayne stuff. And I felt initially, I'm watching this movie for this purpose, and I've got my partner Alex with me, and I don't know if she's ever watched it before, and I haven't watched it for many years. And we turn it on, and it's immediately very not the Batman that we're used to these days. As you say, the Batman's very different. The Dark Knight was very different. Batfleck was different. It's all very dark and gritty. And then this just hits you like a cartoon slap in the face. And Chase Meridian's the initial flirting. And I was just like, what is going on here? Come on. This is Dr. Chase Meridian. She's like, oh, hello. Let me drop my panties for you. That's basically what she's doing straight away. And I'm like, what is this movie? And then there's a loud call out to it's boiling acid. All this sort of stuff. What is this movie? Very silly.
certainly given the situation where it's like, there's men going to die in there, and now is not the time to be like, there's active hostages. Wait till the baddies are tied up, and then you can try and chat to him afterwards.
Superhero movies are roundly criticised for not being horny enough these days, though, and this has that in spades.
It is a horny movie, yeah. You have a late 20s Nicole Kidman looking as beautiful as she ever did. Val Kilmer in his mid-30s, the now late Val Kilmer, a very good-looking man. Fun fact about Val Kilmer, born on New Year's Eve, died on April Fool's Day. There's just like a little weird kind of symmetry to that, I think. Anyway, the part that drew me in, though, because I was very detached from this movie basically immediately because it was just the style. But what drew me into the character was the Bruce Wayne stuff, was this idea of Tommy Lee Jones' Two-Face, Harvey Dent, is not the only Two-Face character in this. And Two-Face, in a sense, invites the audience to hold a mirror up to Batman and go, hang on, you are very Two-Face, and why are you doing this? And you can see in Val Kilmer's performance, I think, some yearning for normality, especially when he's dealing with Chase, and when she's talking about, oh, I like somebody else, and he knows that it's actually him in the suit. There's like a, oh man, and then a conniving kind of, oh, well, I'll take advantage of that, but also it's me, but it's not me, and how do I reconcile that difference? I thought that tension was interesting for this film.
Yeah, the whole Chase relationship is very underwritten, though, isn't it? Because they only share like 4 scenes together or something like that. First, it's, I'm interested in Batman, I'm not interested in you, Bruce Wayne. And then he shows up when she's wearing nothing in her apartment. And it's, oh no, I'm in love with someone else. Well, I've only shared 1 scene or something with you out of costume. 2 scenes, whatever it is.
I think that the thing that kind of makes it, obviously Batman and Robin a bit later is also sort of goofy style children's focused movie. But again, it's not a film I've gone back to. But I think one thing that I do like saying with this movie, with the Chase Meridian side plot and the love triangle, but his 2 sides of the triangle thing, is that is really interesting, and you see more of Bruce Wayne than you usually do in these films, because a lot of the time in a Batman movie, they want to see Batman being the all-action character. But then the scenes where he goes to her office, or they're having dinner together in Wayne Manor and those stuff, it's more interesting seeing his Bruce Wayne as well as his, because obviously his Batman, like we were saying, he's on the job, but he's obviously not going to give much of himself away because he's a masked vigilante. But it's nice to see what's this guy like in social situation, in a business sense, or even how does he present as Bruce Wayne, the philanthropist, and not Batman the crime fighter, because in the world of Gotham, from our point of view as the viewer, knowing the answer, it's like, yeah, it's obvious who Batman is, it's going to be the rich guy. But then seeing here's how Val Kilmer presents Bruce, but even in scenes where he's still prepped, he thinks she's fighting, so he kicks the door in and she's just working out of the punching bag and stuff, so he's always ready to go. But it's nice to see him as the high society guy and the Gothamite Bruce Wayne as opposed to the shadow version of himself. I mean, that is one thing that this movie has as an extra thing on top of the zany car chases and screaming saxophones and 90s action.
I guess that's where the movie falls for me a little bit, is that the things that I find interesting, which is diving into the character, as you mentioned, Craig, you felt that maybe the Chase Meridian Bruce stuff was underwritten. I tend to agree. I think it was a really good idea and they play with it a bit, and I like that and it interests me. And then it just doesn't quite go where I felt it needed to really effectively work for me. But it's hard to talk crap about Val Kilmer's Batman. I think he does a good job. Someone that I do think definitely does a good job and is kind of perfect for the role that they're playing is Jim Carrey as the Riddler. I can't picture at this time of history someone more suited, maybe at literally any time in the last 30 years, someone more suited to playing a Riddler than Jim Carrey. Craig, thoughts?
It's very much the Frank Gorshin version, but the 90s update of that. It's very similar, but also of its time. And it does feel like they molded the Riddler into Jim Carrey's persona. You mentioned The Mask, Ace Ventura, and stuff like that. That's the kind of performances he was doing at that point in his career. So it was a natural fit. He's so infectious. He's having such a blast. I love it when he's playing Edward Nygma as well, outside of the Riddler persona, when he's the crazy scientist at Wayne Tech shaking Bruce Wayne's hand. And it's like, Bruce Wayne? No, that's my name, Ed. I'm going to need my hand back. And then when he's trying to be Bruce Wayne as well, I really like those scenes because he wants to be Bruce Wayne. So he dresses up in a tux and he gets told he looks better in the suit than you do and so on. It's all great. The film isn't playing into realism in any way, but I love how I wonder who this new Riddler guy is in Gotham. Anyway, I'd better go to the product launch of my former employee's company that he somehow miraculously funded very quickly after there was a jewelry store heist a few nights ago. All this craziness. Yeah, Jim Carrey's great. That scene where he's in the Batcave blowing up stuff, just that slapstick, the one-liners, he delivers them perfectly.
All the baseball stuff.
Yeah. Fantastic stuff. His energy is incredible.
I love that you mentioned the wanting to be Bruce Wayne bit. There's that scene where he's in the tux. One of my favorite things about this performance, obviously it's a very big and loud performance, but I love the subtlety, the blink and you miss it stuff. And if you watch closely, he's mimicking Bruce Wayne almost out of respect or love. Bruce will do a hand gesture while he talks, and suddenly you see on camera but out of focus or in the background, Jim Carrey's Riddler is trying to do the same kind of things, like trying to, okay, this is how I'm meant to hold my hand. Okay, this is the facial expressions I need to have at these parties. He's trying to copy him, and I love that choice from Jim. Isaac, how do you feel about Jim Carrey's Riddler?
With the Riddler, a lot of people want to see this more cool, genius guy, but I kind of like that the Riddler's just an annoying, weird ego man. This isn't my opinion. I saw it on YouTube channel Nando V Movies, just in regards to other Batman villains, because it was talking about the next Batman movie. Who could the villain be? And it does say that Jim Carrey's playing Batman villain the Mad Hatter in this movie because he's just making mind-controlling hats. But I think both villains are really fun in this movie. Jim Carrey obviously steals the spotlight in everything he's in. It's not that it's just Batman Forever. I think he's one of those actors that's just magnetic constantly. And I do like that he's this obsessed guy, he's extreme ego, but then when he wants to be Bruce Wayne, because he hasn't naturally got the charm or the social standing or the business-right thing, so he's checking his moles in the right place, and he's checking, I'm doing it right, this is what you're supposed to do. This is the puzzle of how do I be Bruce Wayne? Is taking it sort of like a literal, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this. But I think with every Jim Carrey thing, there's a sense of they're not able to stop him no matter what they wanted for this Riddler. Say if they did want a more Paul Dano threatening Saw-style guy, Jim Carrey's like, nah, I'm just going to shout and dance around and be me. I mean, it's the middle of the night, it's no one bigger than Jim Carrey. I'm trying to think who the equivalent is today.
There isn't one.
There really isn't. Not that level of celebrity.
I suppose it's like if you got Tom Cruise for an action movie and you were like, okay, don't throw yourself off a building or whatever. It's like, nah, it's going to happen. It's the same kind of like, Jim Carrey's here. I know him and Tommy Lee Jones didn't get on, but what did you expect? Tommy Lee Jones, it's his decade. Just let him do whatever he wants to do. Yeah, it's definitely the highlight of the film is Jim Carrey just having an absolute great time in a pure cartoon menace.
Yeah, if you were going to cast a Paul Dano type Riddler, you wouldn't go for Jim Carrey. You wouldn't be asking him, would you? Because you're not going to get that.
No, exactly.
I'm assuming it's similar with Frank Gorshin in the 60s ones. I've not seen too much Dan and West ones, but it's the manic energy that looks like, if we want this manic energy for this guy, obviously Jim Carrey is who you get. And yeah, he never lets it down for even a minute, even when it's by himself as his own character. He's always 11 out of 10, putting all the energy in. And he is the most fun in the film. The
character could get done for copyright infringement, though, because he steals the image of an existing thing for his supervillain persona.
What's the existing thing?
He has that yes or no.
That fortune teller.
Yeah, that thing in his apartment.
It's ticking towards the lamps.
Yeah.
Right.
Same with the previous film where you have this gross penguin with Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman. You don't want the villains to be the same. I think Tommy Lee Jones' Two-Face is fun as well as a over-the-top gangster, and you can get a sense of Tommy Lee Jones doesn't really get much of a choice in this is the energy you need to bring. If Jim Carrey's doing this, you can't not be over-the-top as well. I think if you were trying to do this with Aaron Eckhart's Two-Face and Jim Carrey's Riddler, it was like, no, you've got to kind of match the energy because you're in the scene, and you can't have a big goofy Riddler guy and then a more gravelly, subtle Two-Face. No, you've got to be the big, grand Two-Face with the extreme gestures and the shouting and all that going in as well.
That's interesting. To situate the audience a little bit, Val Kilmer at this point was a big star, maybe on the rise, but maybe about to fall off a little bit. Jim Carrey had an all-timer year in terms of comedy success in 1994. Tommy Lee Jones just won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor in The Fugitive, which was a 1993 film, but he won the statue in 1994. So this is a very different people. One of the things that didn't work for me, and I'd be very curious to hear Craig's thoughts on this, is actually Tommy Lee Jones' performance. I feel like he is trying to match the Riddler's energy. He is trying to match that mania, but he does it in a Jim Carrey register, which I don't think suits Tommy Lee Jones. Aaron Eckhart, like you mentioned, or Heath Ledger in that same movie, are both wild characters, particularly as Two-Face, but they get there in a way that feels authentic to them. There's a perceptual reality for us as an audience. We can attach to that and go, cool, that makes sense. To me, I couldn't attach to Tommy Lee Jones. The whole time it just didn't feel like him. Craig, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on his performance.
I do think he's good in this and he's entertaining, but I would have liked a bit more contrast between him and the Riddler because they do seem a little bit too similar. It really shows, obviously, when the Riddler shows up, because he doesn't turn up till about halfway into the film and they don't start interacting until that point. So before then, Tommy Lee Jones is the sole villain of the movie. And it's quite interesting that he ended up in this because you had Billy D. Williams in the 1989 Batman and he had a pay-or-play contract. So he got paid quite a lot of money to not be in this movie. It's a good gig if you can get it, I guess, isn't it? Just get paid to do nothing.
I forgot about that. He was Harvey Dent, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. And I guess the plan was we'll do Two-Face at some point. They didn't end up doing it in Batman Returns and Harvey Dent just doesn't appear. And then they decide to recast him for this one. But it's supposed to be the same guy because it's supposed to be the same universe. But he's obviously not black anymore. And he's Tommy Lee Jones. You do get a hint of the origin. It tells you it's been a year or whatever since someone threw acid in his face during a court case. And you see it on the TV, the slow motion jump across the courtroom that Batman tries to do to stop it, but he's too late. So you get a sense of his origin, but you're just supposed to accept that it's happened and this is why he is the way he is, because you don't get a sense of who Harvey Dent was or why he was important.
Yeah, he's definitely not the spotlight. He's just the other guy. He seems to mostly show up when there's a bit of character moment and then they're like, okay, we need to get back into the action. So you'll have a bit more of a heated competition between Robin or Batman's eternal, do I want to be with Chase forever? And then they'll have to be like, okay, now's a car chase, now's a hold up or whatever. It's the guy with the henchman who you can kick around for a little bit while Riddler runs the villainous main plot.
The scheme, yeah.
He is mostly there for the action scenes, but you don't get a sense that Two-Face has really got a plan on what he's doing. He's just doing miscellaneously like bank robberies, holding up a circus. And there is bits where he's like, who is Batman? But it's just because that's what always happens. There's a line at the end where it's like, you've always been a true friend. Have you? The idea is that they were friends when he was a DA and probably done high society stuff as is Bruce Wayne and as Harvey Dent. But the movie doesn't really give any time to that. It's just like, that was in the past and now he's a flamboyant but generic villain.
Feels like you missed the Two-Face origin movie before this one because it almost feels like there's a whole film in there. One thing you could do is you could watch The Dark Knight up until the point where the Joker is captured and then watch this, because then you have your Two-Face origin and then he's fully established after that.
I could see that. For the young listeners out there of Neil Before Pod, this middle millennial is going to try something here. I would say that Tommy Lee Jones, his Two-Face, is not a planner. He exists on vibes, and the vibes are off for me. It just didn't work. So I don't know if that makes sense for the younger audience. I don't know if this 37-year-old man has just embarrassed himself, but we'll just go with that.
That sort of works, though. He'll flip a coin. What am I going to do tonight? Rob a bank or watch TV?
It's a vibes town, though. There's a whole area that's just neon, and there's a Statue of Liberty. And the circus is insane.
It is insane. The bomb being the cuts are usually big.
The bomb is a big bomb.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Yeah.
In the first film, Joker throws a big parade and it poisons everyone. And in the second film, Penguin teams up with a series of clowns. So you think if there was a circus in town, you'd be like, no, let's not go to the circus in Gotham. You wouldn't do it.
Why would you pay for the circus? Just go for a walk. You get the same thing.
Yeah, just get mugged by a clown. As long as it's a disappearing act, it's like your wallet. It's like, how did you do that? My watch is gone. But yeah, I think he is acting on vibes. It's got that yin yang red logo that is sort of mocked up and stuff, and it's a whole brand and everything.
This obsessively designed layer as well with the two sides.
Yeah.
The two women.
It's two women. And
Sugar and Spice.
One of them's watching cartoons and one of them's burning a pig. Yeah, it is all vibes. But I think Gotham is, in any movie, it's vibes and it's gimmicks and it's whatever energy you bring, I guess. So he certainly fits in with that.
Shout out to a baby-faced Drew Barrymore. She's 18, playing Sugar, Two-Face's sidekick there. Let's talk about another younger actress. She was about 28 at the time of filming this one. She was an Australian legend by this point already. Nicole Kidman as Chase Meridian. We mentioned a little bit about her story, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on her performance, Isaac.
She's good in the film. Again, it's kind of like an odd Bond girl sort of feeling. She is in it with more of a purpose because she is challenging Bruce's side, the Bruce Wayne element. She's there to drive that plot because it can't all be just Batman fighting the villains. It's similar with Vicky Vale is in one of the other ones, and then you have Catwoman in the second one. There is a sense of this is the Batman love interest of the week. While it does have the love triangle and it does do that bit, the idea of having to have the love interest character is a bit odd. But I think as the psychologist, she's more interesting, and that's where her character shines a bit better, as trying to get into the heads of both Batman, but then also what makes a person like Two-Face tick, or what makes a person like the Riddler tick. Especially that bit at the end where she goes to see the Riddler in Arkham. She's more interesting in that type of character than there is this overly flirty extra bit. You don't need to do that. It's there for the steaminess, but she's more interesting as a mind to challenge Bruce Wayne, or to challenge who he is and who he wants to be, as opposed to this husky-voiced person who's on the scene as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. What do you think, Craig?
I think there's a sense that she's supposed to be Bruce's intellectual match, and that's why he finds her so interesting, but it's undercut by the fact that every scene is focused on making her look as hot as possible, and as sultry as possible in the way that she speaks, with all the innuendo and the words that she says and everything like that. You do get some, I'm going to call it psychobabble, where they just throw out some psychology terms and call it a day. Like I said, I think she's underwritten, because you have this weird progression of the relationship where she first tells Bruce not interested because she's into Batman, and then the next scene they share together, she says that he never lets her in, and then when Batman's ready to take her up on her offer, she says that she's in love with Bruce Wayne, or someone else implied to be Bruce Wayne. So there's maybe a lot cut here, or maybe they just focused more on the seductive side of it, which is certainly effective. They have her in very eye-catching outfits, and she's shot in very flattering ways and so on, which makes it less of the intellectual match, and it just seems like she's there to be the eye candy. She's there to be the superhero girlfriend of the film. I'm reminded of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, where you had a similar dynamic between MJ, Spider-Man, and Peter Parker, where she was into both of them and not realised that they're the same person. It's a common thing in superhero stories anyway. It's that irony of she doesn't realise that they're the same guy, and she's into both of them and torn between being into both of them. There's an interesting character under there somewhere, but the film focuses very much on the titillation.
Yeah, a lot of the reviews that I read were saying things like Jim Carrey knocks it out of the park, and Nicole Kidman is really bringing it. I don't know if I totally agree with that. I think there's, like we've talked about, some interesting ideas there, but if you listed the 15 greatest Nicole Kidman performances, I don't think we're talking about this one. Whereas Jim Carrey, you might sit there and say, nah, he nailed the Riddler. That's probably in his top 15. Him and Dr. Robotnik, very similar performances. They're great performances for Jim Carrey. Let's talk about the Hollywood fascination with hiring mid-20s people to play teenagers. It's a strange thing that happens quite a bit. If it's someone that looks like Tom Holland, you mentioned Peter Parker. If it's someone that looks like Tom Holland, or someone that looks like Timothée Chalamet, and they maybe have never shaved in their life, you can get away with it. But when it's Chris O'Donnell, I just couldn't take the leap. I don't understand why he's adopting this man. I don't get it. Isaac, help me out. How do you feel about it?
I was thinking, if you're in the circus, and okay, now comes on the Flying Graysons. It's a 60-foot high wire performance, and a 12-year-old kid came out, you were like, this can't be legal, surely.
No.
Again, it's a wacky film. I can sort of go like, okay, he's playing an angry 19-year-old, I guess. They've never really done Robin cinematically very well. The best one being the Adam West Burt Ward Robin. But they're like, is Batman's mate.
They've only done it twice.
I think in this, I think you more see him as he's an angry guy. He's lost his family. And the film is like he needs looking after. Otherwise, he'd just be off to Metropolis immediately or whatever. I think more if it's you're a circus guy, you've been performing the circus, a horrible tragedy has happened, you're full of rage, you want to kill Two-Face, and there is a billionaire who's like, you can look after the bikes or whatever. My memories of the 90s, a lot of it is edgy and cool and pop it extreme and connects and stuff. So he has that sort of energy of he's the cool guy. Everyone wants to be as cool as Batman with all the skills, but this is the heartthrob guy. It's cool and edgy and dark and mysterious. But I think the main thing a lot of people focus on is he's a guy playing a kid. So I think it would work more if he was just an angry young man, maybe around 20. But the film doesn't really clarify whereabouts he's supposed to be in his life. He's very angry. He's after Two-Face. He's quite acrobatic and he can put up in a fight. Obviously, Chris O'Donnell's in his early 20s, so it's an odd thing to go in. But I do think Batman having someone to bounce off with Robin. Obviously, the new movies, they've not really done that yet. They've not really looked into that idea. But I do think it is quite fun having a dynamic duo as opposed to his moody Batman. And the character can't really grow without a Robin, I don't think, in terms of Batman's always Christian Bale and Pattinson. This is the anger that comes from this injustice. And then with Robin, you can go like, here's someone else that was as angry as you were, but you don't also want them to be this angry forever. So it kind of allows for a bit of growth.
I agree with a lot of that. I think the thing that I agree with the most is when you said it probably would work better if he was just a 19, 20-year-old and wasn't getting adopted. The adopted part that gets me, I think, couldn't get past it. It just annoyed the crap out of me.
He talks about agreeing to go to Wayne Manor because it'll avoid the social services getting involved or whatever.
What, the guy that arrived on a motorbike, the 25-year-old man? Come on.
All it would have had to be is Bruce kind of felt sorry for him after his parents were killed and invited him to stay at Wayne Manor for a few days.
Yeah, to have an opportunity or something.
Yeah.
If I was doing a rewrite, say if we got draft 1 of the script, which is to finish Batman Forever, I think it'd be kind of fun. As I was saying, there's going to be random scenes where Two-Face just shows up. Pretty soon afterwards, they have a car chase, the obligatory car chase. And the song is called Obligatory Car Chase as well, which I find fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
This is a point where you can have Batman he's beating up a few of the thugs, and then suddenly another hooded Avenger turns up, and it's Chris O'Donnell just giving it a go, and he's got to train him in the fight. Suddenly there's a third party in this action scene that we know is Chris O'Donnell is Dick Grayson. Batman probably doesn't know, but he tried to reach out to him just because he saw the tragedy in the circus and say, we don't want to adopt him, which is weird, but he wants to go like, hey, if you need help with anything, there is the Wayne Foundation, there is charity stuff that he does anyway, so it's not out of the realm of he would help out this person. This is, again, retro rewriting. I think it'd be more fun to have him in as he's hell-bent on killing Two-Face, but Batman's a non-killing guy, and his killing is not the answer. So it's a bit more of an interesting action scene if you have Two-Face's guys, Batman's guys, and then you have Nightwing or whatever he chooses to call himself joining in the fray. That'd be quite fun.
Yeah, nice little rewrite there. As I mentioned at the top, I'm not a big superhero guy. It's not really my MO. So being on this podcast is hilarious to me. But here I am. I'm giving it a go. I'm doing it for you, Craig. This is my friendship. But one thing I do find interesting about the whole superhero genre is this idea of masking. Because the older I get, the more I realize how much I think we all do it. And so to be clear, I'm not diagnosed with any sort of neurodivergence, but I haven't gone to check, but I might be. I have some tendencies, I have some traits. And what I've done in my life is I have masked a lot to get by, to get through employment situations or at school or in social situations. And what I've come to realize is that it's not just me. I think a lot of people are masking a lot of the time.
Yeah, you just reflect the person you chat to. For example, if you're chatting with Craig, it's Craig pop culture, big interest, he used to do the podcast and stuff, lean into more of that. But then say if you were going to work and someone was asking you about life or sport or whatever, you'd be like, oh yeah, have you seen the new trailer for Mario Galaxy or whatever? You know, there's always different interests. But I think you're right in terms of masking it. You have to present yourself in different ways depending on situations you're in or like people you're interacting with.
Exactly. And in this particular situation, I'm slightly, ever so slightly, using presenter voice. You got to have the voice a little bit. I know I haven't got a great one, but it's still something. It is something that I found particularly interesting with this movie because I think inherently Batman is about masking a lot of the time. Which one is the real person? Like you said earlier, Craig, is Batman the real one and Bruce is the mask, or is it the other way around? And I suppose that differs from situation to situation for the character. But I think this movie tries to grapple with the idea of masking very directly. And I found that maybe the most interesting thing about the film. Craig, do you have any thoughts about that particular theme or any other themes that you found interesting about the film?
Yeah, it's definitely in there. I've already talked about how Bruce Wayne is different personas depending where he is, and we all do that to some degree. It's much more prominent in Superman stories. There are different Clark Kents. There's the Daily Planet Clark Kent. There's the home on the farm with his parents Clark Kent, and then there's Superman, and there might be other variations here and there. So there's no strong sense of who the real guy is because he is adapting himself for different situations. With Superman, it's largely that Superman's the real guy. That's who he really is, and that's the version that he shares with the world. But Bruce Wayne is very different because I don't think he has a sense of who Bruce Wayne is when he's not Batman. That's certainly evident here because, like I said, he's very detached and he doesn't really have anybody except Alfred. So I guess Alfred gets the real him and nobody else. And then what he sees with Dick Grayson here, I feel like I should just bleep it out every time we say Dick, but I'm not going to. It'll take forever.
Cock Grayson, no? Bleep that one out.
Cock Grayson, yeah. Richard Grayson.
Yes.
Rick Grayson, I don't know. But he sees in Dick this younger version of him, someone that's really angry, has lost his family, wants to fuel that anger into vengeance and create a superhero persona and get along that way. And he's seeing these steps happening again, and he doesn't really want to be a part of it because he thinks that he's so screwed up. So you're working towards a conclusion of Bruce Wayne actually accepting the fact that Batman is not something that's necessary, but something that he wants as part of his own life. And he kind of gets there with Dick helping him along by giving him someone to share that side of his life with, who can be out there with him and having his back and so on. I would really love if the film had actually explored that idea, because I do really find that interesting. And I know a lot of quote-unquote fans of Batman will dismiss Robin and say that there should never be a Robin, even though the character existed a year after Batman was created. They brought him in for young kids to read and relate to and so on. I do think there's a really nuanced way that you could do that story now by playing with that idea, but you really need a seasoned Batman to do it, I think, as well, because otherwise we've had one Batman film and now there's Robin, and you haven't really had the chance for that loneliness to embed completely. So doing this in the third film actually feels right, because you have a sense of who Batman is, even though the tones are very different between all the three films that we've had up to this one. But it feels about right in terms of we're used to this now, and now he has to figure out what's next.
Yeah, that's interesting. Isaac, same question to you. Do you have any thoughts about the themes that Craig and I are talking about, or anything else?
I think with all of the Batman films, I'm not much of a film reviewer, but as a watcher of Batman films who's familiar with the character, like I said, the theme of masking is ever present. Away from that theme, but just in general, the business of the movie being more aimed at toys and children and that commercialization. I don't think that is a terrible idea. And obviously it continues now in like the Avengers and stuff. Every Avenger will have to get at least 2 costumes because they have to sell the Funko, well, not Funko Pops anymore, but the Hot Toys.
Except Black Widow.
Except for the women, am I right? Far out.
Yeah, where's my Chase Meridian action figure?
Good point.
So I'm sure there'll be at least a pop vinyl of Chase Meridian.
Somewhere, hopefully.
Maybe or maybe not. But I think certainly with Batman or certain things, if younger audiences aren't going to be interested in it, then it's not really going to have the legs that it's going to carry on. So obviously the Nolan era and the Batman era is aimed at much higher age. It's dark, it's quite brutal, especially with shows like The Penguin as well, being ultra-violent. It's also got to, like I said, people will have watched this when they were kids in the 90s, or they might have a McDonald's tie-in and stuff. We want to get as much audience as possible. And I think this is a concern with superheroes and superhero movies, is they're filming Spider-Man 4 and probably Captain America 5. They've been going on for a bit. You're going to lose your audience eventually. And I think with this one going from, okay, we've had 2, both have 15 rating, Batman and Batman Returns, a bit more adult focused and a bit more gothy and gloomy. And the comics were doing that at the time with Frank Miller and stuff and Dark Knight Returns. But I think having a Batman movie that is more a family outing is not the Doom thing that I know a lot of people say, oh, then Schumacher came and he made 2 movies that just want to cash in and sell toys, and that's what killed the franchise. I don't think it's as bad as that. I don't think it's the worst thing to aim a little younger with, okay, Batman is a massive property. The last 2 films, had this, but I think also it's nice to change a little bit. Let's open it up a bit. Let's make it a bit more family friendly. And at the same time, it's a business. Sure, we'll sell a few McDonald's toys and put lights in the Batmobile so it's more visually appealing and all that.
I love how you say, oh, I'm not much of a film reviewer, and then you go into great detail about all this film context, as well as segueing beautifully to the next point for me. So thank you for that. I just want to give a little bit of context around this for people, because you're right. The previous 2 films, they were a bit silly at times. They had definitely a zany element to them, but they were for adults, at least teenagers. Whereas this film, you could say, is definitely, while it is a bit horny and things like that, it is certainly aimed for kids. And I think Batman and Robin maybe even more so, as Craig said earlier. So there is a shift here, and I'm not that well versed in superhero stuff, so I'm definitely going to lean on you guys for that. But what I can say with film history, so Batman was 1989 and Batman Returns was 1992. In 1993, the game changed forever with Jurassic Park. I did some research on Jurassic Park a couple of years ago for an episode of my show, and Jurassic Park particularly was the thing that changed the way that movie studios franchise their films and advertise their films and put out McDonald's toys and merchandise just generally. So suddenly the shift moves from, okay, we're going to tell a story that's going to be appealing and sell tickets and all that sort of thing in Batman Returns, to, well, we're going to try and do that, sure, but also merchandise is front and center here. To me, it represents a big shift in the movie industry.
Well, even those Batman films had Happy Meal tie-ins and so on.
Yes, but the merchandise taken compared to Jurassic Park was nothing. Jurassic Park was out of this world. You're right, there were things before Jurassic Park that had merchandise and had tie-ins, but the focus of the entire industry feels like it shifted after Jurassic Park.
I do feel like blockbusters have somewhat lost that because this was the perfect way to build anticipation for a film. You have the cornflakes toys and the Happy Meal toys and just the toys you can buy. Kids will be seeing adverts for all these things months before the film comes out, and by the time the film comes out, they'll really want to see it. I feel like they've kind of lost that. There's a line in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness where Doctor Strange says to Scarlet Witch, "We can get you back on the lunchbox," which is hilarious because they're not making the Marvel lunchboxes. Mm-hmm. Certainly not to the extent that they would be if they were making Avengers movies in the mid-90s.
Well, I can speak to the fact that there are definitely Avengers everything, because one of my clients I work with, so Isaac, for context, I do disability support, and one of the guys that I work with, his name is Matty Z, shout out Matty Z. He's a 34-year-old man with Down syndrome, and he loves action movies and superheroes. And well, at the moment, he has a Stitch backpack, Lilo and Stitch, but prior to that, he'll have Captain America backpack and Captain America lunchbox. So it definitely does exist, but you're right, Craig, in saying that it's maybe less in the culture, I guess, would be the thing. It's less zeitgeisty than it used to be, the whole merchandisey thing. Isaac, you talked about this idea of Schumacher gets labeled with he created 2 cash-grabby, merchandise-focused movies and then ruined the franchise. That is the perception. Absolutely. Craig, how do you feel about that? Do you share that sentiment, or is it something that you think is maybe a bit unfair?
I do think it's unfair because I think people are just looking for ways to hate on these movies. And if you don't like these movies, if they're not your Batman, your style of Batman that you want, then fair enough. But I think condemning it for them being cash grabs when that's what movies are, they're based on comic books. The point is to sell tickets, to sell toys, to sell all these things. But to dismiss them for just being that is a bit erroneous. And yes, there's loads of different variations of the Batsuit in this movie because they can sell toys of everyone. Batman and Robin is even worse for that. There's different Batmobiles, different vehicles, all this stuff. But even before that, they were coming up with toys that were inspired by the movie, but not actually in the movie. So it's just one of those things. But I think people are too quick to dismiss these 2 films. And I feel like they have their place in history. And I think there's different factors that went into the franchise falling apart in the way that it did. Because this film did really well. Batman and Robin didn't, but I think it was speaking to a cultural shift at that point where they were maybe looking for something else. And that era of superhero films was just naturally dying off anyway.
Yeah, and Isaac, you said sometimes you get 4 films into a franchise and there's fatigue. People do just sort of die out a little bit.
Yeah, I think Craig was saying earlier, introducing Robin works better with seasoned Batman, like 3 films in. Well, you have to get 3 films in. That's kind of a risk in itself.
Yes.
We know Batman 2 is out in 2027, and it's like 2025, and everything's in demand, and you're not sure what are the numbers going to be on Batman 2. Will it do as well as Batman 1? Is the interest gone? So I don't know how much they are able to plan that for. Obviously, there's always the optimism, oh yeah, this is going to last forever, and Superman did well, and Thunderbolts did well. Obviously, the 90s was a bit of a different time. They were saying how the commercialism of Jurassic Park and stuff altered how it is, and then also in hindsight, we know that the style is going to change dramatically with X-Men and Blade, and it's going to be all black leather jackets and trench coats, and obviously the Matrix is going to change everything in a few years. So at the time, obviously, yeah, big, bold blockbusters. You're just seeing dinosaurs on big screens. So while this isn't in the same CGI-ness that the next film's in, where you get the driving along statues and going into space or whatever, and people are getting frozen, it's not doing that element yet. It's in the spectacle era of we want spectacle, we want everything to be big and massive, and it does not detract from the film, but sometimes there are points where it's like, as fun as it is to watch Batman's Batmobile be able to drive up a building and suddenly go vertical or whatever, it's kind of where it changes from this is a mindless fun movie that you can put on while you're having food and you've been at work and you're like, I don't really want to think too hard, I just want to watch Batman do stuff. You wouldn't then put it up against The Long Walk or something. You're like, okay, I'm going to lock in, and how does this make me feel? How does this make me question what things is bringing up? This is definitely one where this is just a popcorn thing, and I, as someone who's eagerly excited for Now You See Me 3, I'm all about a popcorn movie sometimes. Sometimes it's just great. It's the roller coaster element. This is just, I know I'm going in just for a bit of fun, and best case scenario, it does have a bigger story than you're expecting, but worst case scenario, you're having fun for just 2 hours and it's a bit of a laugh.
I'm going to skip over what makes it great and shortcomings. I feel like we've ticked a lot of those boxes, unless you guys have something that you want to talk about.
No, I think everything I've said about it is gone in terms of the deep dive element.
We've been talking about this film, and honestly, I feel bad because I haven't let you guys off the leash talking about a lot of your favorite things about this movie. In terms of favorite scenes or favorite lines or set pieces, I'd love to hear, because you guys are way more enthusiastic about this film than I am. So I just want to bask in your positivity for a little bit about this one. Isaac, you seem to really love this movie, so give me your best scene.
We've talked about Jim Carrey and Val Kilmer, but I do love the "oh no, it's boiling acid" man, who then turns up a little later on when Batman bursts through the screen and it's like, Batman, yeah! I think we have to give a special shout out for the security guard / party goer, man.
If you're stuck in a life and death situation, you don't want to be stuck in a life or death situation with that guy, the most annoying man in the world.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, my hearing aid is like, give me a minute, you're going to die.
Also, why doesn't Batman have some kind of bat safecracker on him?
Well, you've got everything else.
Yeah.
Forgot everything else, but I think if we're giving an extra shout, I just want to say shout out to that guy, whoever that guy is. Whether or not he's the same guy, I just assume he is. He's a great guy. Is it Michael Gough or Michael Gough? The Alfred of the 90s is Michael Gough. He's a great guy. He has that sardonic, I can't persuade you to take a sandwich with you, sir, and that sort of stiff upper lip, which is always really fun.
I love that scene where he's like, Master Dick stole the car. He's like, the Jag? No, the other car. the other one? No, the other car. You idiots.
Isaac, the perfect word, sardonic. That was exactly the word I was thinking of as well. It is a great performance. And the only main character that really is Pat Hingle as Commissioner Gordon. Is he also in the other movies?
Yeah, he's the Commissioner Gordon of these 4 movies. He is useless, isn't he? He is so worried that he's going to have to actually do something at all times.
Hello, police.
I'm not the best in comic lore, but is there a point where Commissioner Gordon became a proper character? Is he the Batman Year One sort of guy? Or Long Halloween? Is there a comic where he goes from he's just the police officer to an integral character?
He's always a fixture and he's used in different ways, but this is again an evolution of the 60s idea of, oh no, someone's robbed a bank, quick, call Batman. They don't do anything for themselves. You get the scene in this where he's just standing on the roof with the bat signal and being like, well, I guess he's not coming. I guess the city's lost now.
Yeah, just like, yeah, shut it off.
I guess there's nothing I can do as commissioner of the police.
But technically, he's not doing anything illegal. He's shown the bat signal, and the Riddler shot a bigger Riddler signal. I'm not phoning air traffic, but it's probably all right. We're shining this. I can't book him on this.
Light pollution, that's illegal, isn't it?
Yes, light pollution, but that's about it.
Actually, it's a good point about the whole air traffic control thing. Are they just pretty... In Australia, we have a term called willy-nilly, which means just random with it.
Yeah, we have that. It's just like, whatever.
Shine it up wherever we go. Is that what we do? We just put it up to hell with whatever planes are going past? Far out. This could be a really bad, tragic situation. The darker Batman might address that, in fact.
Yeah, I guess in this Gotham where you do have Mr. Freeze with ice guns and you have big blimp fight, just don't fly over it. Just circle around.
Gotham's a failed state. Just forget about it.
Yeah, this is maybe a little bit dark. I very recently flew over the Middle East region to get to Europe, and there's a very obvious detour that is taken at the moment with current world events around Israel-Palestine. It's like a dog leg around it. Just picturing that for Gotham. Flight paths are just like, nope, we'll go the extra 100 miles if we have to. That's fine. I don't care if there's a tailwind. Let's just move.
Plus, Batman's flying around in his custom airplane, so you might crash into him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you would just avoid it for sure. Craig, give me a favourite sequence or a favourite set piece.
Oh, so many. I really like the scene where Dick finds out the truth about Bruce Wayne with the world's slowest closing door. Alfred goes into the secret entrance to the Batcave and the door takes about a week to close, and Dick would have actually been quicker if he'd just walked down the stairs rather than all the acrobatics he does. And then he lands in the Batcave and obviously the intruder alert goes off. And I love how the intruder alert shows him everything.
Just imagine if Alfred was deliberately letting him in. It's like, okay, I'm going to close the door slightly. He's like, actually, I'm going to do this a bit closer. And he looks up and he's still doing a somersault. It's like, okay, real slowly, close this door. Come on, dude, get to the door.
And it's when Alfred's just standing there in the middle of the cave. I'm surprised that Dick wasn't like, so Alfred is Batman? Oh, God.
This guy.
You're right. We skipped over shortcomings a little bit, but is it a shortcoming when the movie is this deliberately silly? Probably not, but it's so silly. My gosh. I think if I had to pick a favorite sequence in terms of a set piece, I think the circus is probably where I'm sitting.
Yeah, the circus is great. I like the Riddler's weird island mansion death trap thing, but the circus encompasses that vibe more. Everything's massive. You got the giant drummers, you got this giant circus tent, everything is super over the top.
The big spherical bomb.
Yeah, the giant spherical bomb that instead of us rolling out the door, they go, let's get to the roof. I think that scene encompasses the energy of the movie the most. I think that's probably the standout. Also, Two-Face has got the best look in that as well. The ringmaster's top hat and everything.
I love when he's like, Batman reveals himself or we'll blow this place up, and there's just chaos after that, and Bruce stands up and yells, Harvey, I'm Batman, and no one's can hear a word he's saying.
And occasionally he cuts Riddler's just watching it on live leak. Yeah! There's a little loser in his tiny apartment watching a terrorist attack like, hooray!
Did you catch when Dick says that he's going to leave after Bruce is asked to adopt him, and Bruce says to him, well, I'm sure you'll land on your feet. Oh, too soon.
Oh, yeah. No.
Oh. Didn't even think of that.
No, I didn't think so. I didn't notice that.
That's quite sharp, Batman. Oh my goodness. Bit feisty. Comedic beats? Any favorite jokes that are landing for you guys? I would probably lean towards the Chase Meridian sounds like she's getting beaten up or something like that, and she's boxing the bag and he barges the door in and don't worry, you can afford it or something like that. That was good fun. I also just like the really silly stuff like it's boiling acid. That's great. It's so bad, but that's what's good about it, you know?
The game of Battleship is fun.
Battleship, I like when Batman bursts through the glass window and it's like, your entrance was good, but his was better. The difference, showmanship. Very clearly, if any bystander was watching, Edward English just chatting to the head baddie.
Just casually standing next to him, yeah.
That's quite fun. They have a casual critique. I'm trying to think what other fun one-liners. Essentially anything Jim Carrey says. Some of it's a bit odd, but I think his delivery is always really fun.
I love the riddles and how easily solved they are by the people that just look at them. And then you have that elaborate scene of, what if we take them as letters of the alphabet? And 13 would be M, and perhaps these two numbers are separate. How are you reaching these conclusions? It's very much what would happen in the 60s as well. Also took a note of when they refer to clock, tennis ball, whatever, and it's small in size, light in weight. A clock?
I mean, a watch is small.
Yeah, but sometimes clocks are on Big Ben or something.
Grandfather clocks, not very small.
No, very heavy. You wouldn't want to move one.
Yeah, there's all that stuff. The Batcave sequence we already spoke about. In terms of not quite funny, but I really like the sadistic choice scene. Batman, you have a choice. You can catch one of these or both of them.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like there's any trouble catching both of them. But I like that it's make the choice between being Bruce Wayne or Batman and your partner or your partner, so to speak, and he catches both. And that's when he comes to the conclusion of, I'm doing this for me now. I'm Bruce Wayne and Batman, and I choose to be that. That's how you get the forever, isn't it? That's how Batman can be forever. Mm. And then he solves the problem with his money, because he throws coins at Two-Face.
Yeah, money kills.
Throwing money at the problem, first time.
Hey, look, we've been doing that for hundreds of years, and you know what? Obviously, it's working.
But he's a nice billionaire. The insurance policy doesn't cover suicide, but full benefits.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh, you committed suicide, you get nothing, as would really happen with a corporation.
Yeah, I'm not going to take my usual level of woke here. Billionaires are great. I love them. They're great. Let's talk about any behind-the-scenes stuff that you guys love. Any trivia that you learned. You guys have mentioned a bunch about how Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey did not get along. I particularly liked when Tommy Lee Jones apparently said, I cannot sanction your buffoonery. I just think that's kind of perfect. What do you say to that? Cool. I'm getting paid more than you.
I'm never doing another comic book movie again until I do another comic book movie again in 20 years or whatever it is.
Who's this, Tommy Lee Jones?
Yeah, he was in Captain America.
First Avenger? 2011, right?
Yeah, he's the general.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The very Tommy Lee Jones coded general.
Yes. Isaac, anything behind the scenes that you were drawn to?
I don't know much about the trivia for this movie, other than that I can't sanction your buffoonery story. I know like McDonald's had a say in the edit and stuff.
What?
There's a Seal song on the soundtrack.
There is, yeah. Kiss from a Rose.
That they use in the credits?
Yeah, that's from this.
Even though it would have made more sense in Batman and Robin because of the Poison Ivy approach.
Kiss from a Rose, yeah.
I've don't know much about it in terms of filming of it.
All right. Craig, do you have anything that you want to mention?
The Schumacher cut that people are clamoring for, that apparently exists, that we could potentially see that has some extra scenes in it. There's some of it in the deleted scenes. There's a scene where Bruce is dreaming about a giant bat that he speaks to, and it's supposed to be about absolving the conflict that he has within himself. He internalizes Batman and becomes a complete person. I like that Joel Schumacher described this as a pop culture opera. I think that's a perfect description of this film.
Yep, I could see it.
I don't know about any other behind the scenes stuff. It's just Warner Brothers wanted a marketable superhero movie and they got it.
It's interesting because Joel Schumacher, who was not really known for zany stuff in his movies, was chosen to direct this because Tim Burton dropped out. So then he wanted to make something darker and serious, and Warner Brothers poo-pooed that, among other corporate interests, as you mentioned, Isaac, which then led to them losing Michael Keaton and getting Val Kilmer, which is good or bad, depending on how you feel about those performances. And it also led to them missing out on Leo DiCaprio as Robin. So they lost Keaton and DiCaprio to get Val Kilmer and Chris O'Donnell, which I think is maybe a trade down, especially in the DiCaprio to O'Donnell. That's a miss. It would have been interesting to see a darker version of that with DiCaprio as Robin.
Although O'Donnell does seem very Robin. He seems to fit the character very well. He's quite similar to Burt Ward in his mannerisms and so on. Again, a bit more updated for the 90s, but I do think that he fits your mental image of Robin, I think.
I agree with that. I guess what I'm talking about more is that Chris O'Donnell now is a TV guy.
NCIS, he's in 40 seasons of that or whatever.
Yeah, whereas DiCaprio is Leo DiCaprio, for better or worse. That guy transcends film. People know who that man is.
Maybe that would have killed his career if he'd done this.
Maybe, or maybe people are reevaluating this movie because they're like, oh, Leo DiCaprio, we've got to go check it out. Who knows how that goes. Is there anything else?
There was a Robin cast in Batman 1989. It was one of the Wayans.
Really?
He had that pair play contract that they were giving out at that time. I forget which Wayans. There's quite a few of them, but one of the Wayans was cast as Robin for Batman 1989. I guess they cast him as an option and then decided not to include him.
That's fascinating. The Wayans brothers are known for comedy, largely.
Yeah, he would have been the comedy sidekick in some version of the film.
Yeah, they would have been quite young in the late 80s. So that's interesting. All right, well, one thing on my other show that we like to finish with is the MVP. Is the idea of picking someone who basically wins the movie or is the most influential part, maybe the best thing about it. And it could be anyone. It could be a character. It could be an actor. It could be the director. It could be the screenwriters. It could be the production designer, which I think is worth a shout out, by the way, in this film. The production design goes pretty hard in creating the Gotham that we get, plus the Batmobile, plus whatever. Score. It could be the cinematography. It could be any of those things. But you have to pick one person probably, or screenwriters. You could say the three people that do that. Craig, you've done a bit of that before on my other show. So who's the MVP of this movie?
I'm going to avoid the obvious one that someone will say. I am actually going to go with the score because it does create a very hummable Batman theme. And that's not easy to do. It does stand out. It sounds like a Batman theme and it takes its place in Batman theme history, I suppose. I think the score is really good.
I'm just trying to picture this. You said it's hummable. Can you hum it for me, please, Craig?
I'd rather not.
Oh, yeah. And that's different to the Danny Elfman one, right?
It sounds in keeping with the 89 soundtrack, but also its own thing.
Yeah, okay. So it wasn't done by Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman, of course, did the 1989 theme. This was Elliot Goldenthal, who later won an Oscar for Best Original Score of Frida in 2003. In this same year, 1995, he was nominated for Interview with the Vampire. So that's another one that he did. He was around in a few different scores over the years, Elliot Goldenthal. A fine choice.
Owning his craft.
Yeah. Isaac, who is your MVP of Batman Forever?
I'm going to go with Val Kilmer. This is one Batman film, and I think it's still managing to be the classic serious brooding Batman in that weird neon nightmare place, but having fun and seriousness and balancing all of it, and his Bruce Wayne as well. I think really knocks it out of the park, and it's an absolute blast of a performance as my Batman. So I'm going to go with him. I'm going to pick Val Kilmer for my MVP.
Yeah, a great choice. He was a huge star at the time, and another person that was a huge star at the time, as we mentioned, this might be a bit of bias because I was very much a Jim Carrey kid, but I think Jim Carrey is the MVP with an absolute bullet for me. He feels like he knows the movie that he is in, and I think every scene that he is in, whether he shares it with Val, whether he shares it with Tommy Lee Jones, I think he dominates the screen. I found the film a lot less watchable than you guys did. I thought he made it a lot more watchable than it otherwise would have been if it was some other villain or some other performance from some other person. So for me, it was Jim Carrey. I like that we sort of landed on three different ones. Craig, you mentioned the obvious one. Did we choose the obvious one?
That was Jim Carrey, yeah.
Okay. No shout out to Joel Schumacher. Maybe when we cover Batman and Robin. Have you guys covered that already on the pod?
Nope.
Maybe in a couple of years' time, we can loop back around to that one, and maybe Joel will get his flowers then.
Yeah. I did just notice in my notes some stab at a potential theme that the film could have, or how prescient it is in a way, because Nigma's box, it's not a box, why is it called the box? It's a thing that you put on top of your TV.
The blender thing, yeah.
Yeah, the blender thing. It's prescient in the sense of targeted advertising and manipulation to get people to subscribe to a particular narrative or point of view.
True, yeah, we didn't really cover that.
True.
That's very much what is happening when you open Facebook or something now, isn't it? It's targeting you specifically.
Yeah, and I'm happy to throw Meta under the bus, but not just Facebook.
Oh yeah, the whole gang.
Anything on the internet, really. If you go to a website, you're getting ads a lot of the time. Probably not Near Before Blood, but the rest of them, yeah, it's pretty bad out there.
Yeah, so it's ahead of its time in that way. It's a 90s extrapolation of how that might happen in a sci-fi way.
That would be interesting. If you go to university and you're doing a course on media in dialogue with the future, and then Batman Forever comes up and you're like, interesting. Then you watch it and you go, oh, yeah.
You'd raise it during a seminar as a point and your lecturer would look at you as if you're an idiot and then you would explain it.
You get laughed out of the room. I was thinking about this recently. Cinematography, right? I don't particularly love the cinematography of this movie. I think cinematography is a misunderstood art. I think a lot of the time people sit there and go, oh, it looks colorful. That's great. Wicked is great cinematography, whereas I would say Wicked is very bad cinematography because it's very blurred out in the background. There's nothing to grab onto. It's very surface level prettiness and whatever. I don't love the cinematography. And then I was doing a bit of research into this and someone said, you know what is a really good looking 90s movie that they don't make anymore? The Parent Trap. And I'm like, that would be an interesting thing to bring up at a cinematography convention. Cinematography of Parent Trap. But if you go back and look at highlights of Parent Trap, the way they use natural light through the windows and tracking shots, what is going on? The person is just off kilter with this. But you're right, Batman Forever could be taught in a course about future technology and the way the future is going to be so exploitative of the audience.
Turning you into the product, which is what's happening here.
Yeah.
That's why a box is in every home and it's cheap, you presume, because they are the product.
Exactly. How are they making their money? Oh, it's interesting. They're selling you.
Genius. Those three screenwriters really dialed into something here.
They sure did. Let's call it at this point. I think we've talked Batman Forever very comprehensively. Isaac, I just want to say, absolute pleasure to chat with you and meet you. And
yeah, it's lovely. It's a great first one to start on and hope for more chats with other types of movies and whatever in the future.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. And considering that you talked yourself down about being not a film reviewer, I think you held your own just fine.
I can with this film, but I think if you ask me, what do you think about the current state of this? I'm like, I don't know. But goofy things I remember from the night.
That's okay. People need to review nerdy comic book superhero movies. I think there's a film reviewer for everybody. So I think you did really well. Thank you. And it's lovely to meet you.
Oh, thanks very much. Yeah, same to you.
Craig, you're an old hand at this stuff. You are a film reviewer. You're someone that I expect nothing but the best from, and you've delivered once again. So thank you for joining us.
And you were very disappointed.
Yeah.
I expect more from you. Do better next time.
Lift your game. Go listen to the tape. Listen to Isaac. He's nailing it. You, however, no.
You're getting complacent.
Yeah, the power's gone to your head. No, thank you as well for giving me the chance to be here. And
it was great to get a movie-versaries flavour around these parts.
Yeah, I think it's something that we can do in the future, as I said.
I did have one more thing that I wanted to reference.
Okay.
The scene where the Batwing takes off after the, what do you think, Alfred, by sea or by air? And it's, why not both? We have a boat and we have a plane and we have two people. Let's do this thing. That Batwing takeoff, it's like that annoying level from a video game that you can't get past because the controls suck. He's weaving through the cave system. Could you not just cut a launch bay out of the cave? You've done everything else.
I don't know what you're talking about because when I play video games, I play them on easy mode for the story.
No, it's very much a 90s side-scroller, crappy 3D graphics video game. It's a movie tie-in as well. So the controls are awful because they made it in 10 minutes to coincide with the release of the movie. That reminds me of you would be crashing into a wall so many times and you would hate that level.
Although I have to admit, are you guys both Metal Gear Solid heads?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So I played the original, the first PlayStation 1 with Liquid Snake and everything. I played that recently and I played it on easy mode. And I've got to tell you, that fist fight with Liquid on top of Metal Gear at the end of the game is very hard to do with modern control sensibilities. On easy mode, I was almost throwing the controller. Alex had calmed me down. So frustrated. Anyway, it's enough of that. And that, I think, will do us for all things Batman Forever as well. Thank you to Niall Stenson for the supplied music. If you like what you heard, please do hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. If you are on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you can rate and leave a review, please do leave us a rating and comment. Isaac, what rating do you feel we have earned today?
I think we got 5 whole big green stars in the sky.
Yeah, 5 boiling vats of acid.
Holy 5 stars, Batman.
Holy 5 stars. If you want to discuss Batman Forever, or really anything else, especially things that are a bit more nerdy flavored, a bit more superhero flavored, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, and of course you can go over to neilbeforeblog.co.uk. You can leave a comment, join the community over there, and you can also join the community of a listener on Discord.
There's listeners now.
Is it listeners? Oh, very cool. Violet, you've got some competition. Shout out to you, listeners. You know who you are. For more in-depth analysis of all your favorite nerdy things, interviews, a monthly news podcast, join us next time on Neil Before Pod. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.